Okay, we're on a job out here in Mechanicsburg, and I wanted to show you guys a waterproof system we're putting in today. This is not a damp-proof system. This is an actual perimeter hydrostatic pressure waterproof system. So, brought the camera down here. We're going to go down in the basement and take a look at what the boys are doing here. All right, there's our Jackie Chan, as we call him. And here's another one of our guys right here. And you can see we had a problem wall here. We only had one problem wall in this basement that we're about to remodel. So what we're doing is, you can see this long pile of concrete and stone here. We just jacked 16 inches off of the exterior wall here. All right, and you can see that's a 16-inch wide trench, and they're jacking over here, and what they're going to be doing is they're going to be cutting a hole in the floor there to put this pit right here. That's just your standard sump pump pit right there. That's going to have a battery backup pump in it, and that's going to go right there where his shovel is. And the trench is about 28 feet long. All right, that's the first phase of the operation. Jack open the concrete floor, expose the footer. You can take a look down here in the pit. You can see we've got two tiers here. We've got an upper tier here. This is actually the footer right here. From the wall right over to this edge here is the footer. And then we dug an additional, from the edge of the footer over to the floor here, dug an additional 8 inches where we're going to be putting a piece of corrugated drain line all the way down in front of the footer. So any water that gets underneath that footer or in around this wall in any shape or fashion is going to get trapped in that pipe that we're going to be putting in the trench in front of the footer. Now that pipe that we're going to be putting in is right over here. And this is a 4-inch corrugated flexible pipe. And we've got 28 feet of it here. We're going to be laying that down in there continuous from one end of the wall to the other. And we're going to be using what's called mirror drain, just like a mirror in the house mirror drain. And you can see it's got these ribs on it. And this will sit up against the wall, and any water that might get down inside the wall, the basement will get trapped in these almost like tire treads here, and will run down underneath the floor into the waterproof system. I'll show you how we're going to cut that and install that later on in this project. But this again is a hydrostatic waterproof system, a hydrostatic pressure relief system. And what we're doing essentially is we know the owner has a water problem, so we're not going to be able to stop the water from trying to get into the house. So what we're going to do is we're going to let the water in, and we're going to make the water do what we want the water to do. We're going to redirect the water down into the new sump pump pit, where we'll have a pump that'll take any flash flood water away from the house and redirect it back outside. So I'm going to let these two hard-working young bucks finish digging this out here, and as we progress with this little project here, I'll show you exactly how we're going to complete this job, right down to inserting the pump into the pit and venting it outside. So now this is a waterproof system, which means they have a serious water problem where they actually get puddles on the floor. You can see we're on the end of the house here. We have two windows here on the end of the house. It's the whole end wall of the house. Now, some basements may have a water problem the whole way around the perimeter of the basement, and you'll have to do this system on all 4 walls, but we generally only do it on the wall or walls that have the problem. All right, and we're going to be finishing this basement, and in preparation for the finished basement, we have to put this in. Otherwise, they cannot finish their basement. So this is a waterproof system, which is different than a damp-proof system. A damp-proof system is normally just something that you put in if you have block masonry unit walls. These are solid 8-inch poured concrete walls down here, and generally you don't have dampness problems with concrete walls. Dampness problems are reserved for masonry units, for cinder blocks, and this is not a cinder block or a masonry unit basement. This is a concrete poured basement. So if you've got a problem in a basement that has concrete poured walls, chances are you're going to need a waterproof system just like the one you're looking at here today. If you've got block walls and you just have dampness, wet spots on the wall with no standing water at all on the floor, you can put in what's called a damp-proof system, and you can buy the damp-proof solution over at Oh geez, Home Depot sells it. You can buy the damp-proof solution at Lowe's. Any of the big hardware stores sell the damp-proof solution, and you'll just paint that on the wall just like a regular, use a roller and a nap roller and a pole, and just roll it on the walls. And what that'll do is that'll stop the water from seeping through the masonry units, through the cinder block, and creating damp spots on the wall. That's a damp-proof system, not a waterproof system. A damp-proof system would never stop this type of water from coming in. Okay, while we're on the subject, I'm going to show you two other problem areas that we had in this basement. And these are popular areas for small leaks when you have concrete poured walls. You can see right up here, this is the sewage pipe that goes out to the septic field. This is a private septic field here for their sewage, but this could just as well have been a pipe going through the wall out to the street for public sewage. But what I want to show you is where the pipe comes through the wall, right here. Generally they'll put a form in there when they pour these concrete walls, and pour around a form and then pull the form out, and there'll be a hole in the wall for this pipe to go through. Well, that's a weak link in the chain, and a lot of times you will get a leak around these pipes where they go through a concrete wall. Another area here we have a piece of conduit coming through the wall that goes out to the septic field that runs the the pump out in the septic tank. Again, here we have another small leak coming in. Any place where they bore through a concrete wall is a potential leak area. So we have two more leaks there that we're going to have to fix, as well as up along windows. At the corner of this window, right here in the corner, there's a small crack, and they're getting a little leak there too. Now these are problems that can be fixed a lot of times with rerouting the rain spout, the downspouts outside. We'll take care of that. We can also do a little bit of grading work, maybe out in the tambark beds, a little bit of grading, heaping up the soil and right along the edge of the house. That way the water will pitch away from the house. You know, it just may be as simple as a downspout, or a little bit of simple grading out in the tambark beds that'll correct these problems. In addition to that, what we do is we also take hydrostatic caulking that's made for concrete, and we'll do some concrete caulking around these. You can see in here now there's actually silicone caulking in here that was put in maybe by the builder or maybe by a previous homeowner that's not doing so well. You can't squirt silicone caulking around here and expect that to hold. It just doesn't work when they're up against concrete. So they make different concrete patch solutions and different types of patches specifically made for concrete that you can buy, mix up, and patch these that will hold water. So I wanted to show you those areas. They're also considered problem areas, but can be an easy fix. Now you may have cracks. You can see there's a crack right here that runs the whole way down the wall, actually the whole way down to the floor, and the whole way back up, right up to the corner of that window. Now those cracks right there, again, these can be caulked. They make special caulk for concrete that can be used to caulk these cracks. Now generally these cracks on pan-poured concrete walls, normally do not leak. They normally don't go the whole way through the wall. So chances are they're a nuisance to look at, but they're not going to be leaking. All right, because they don't go the whole way through the wall. So tiny hair fracture cracks like that in concrete walls, generally, unless you see water coming through, generally are not a problem, and you don't have to worry about them. Now over here in this corner, you can see down there the homeowners actually have a sump pump down there already, which has a pump in it, but the pump does not have a battery backup. Okay, which means if there's a power failure, that pump will stop running and there'll be no auxiliary power to keep that pump running, and they could get flooded. So we're going to be putting an auxiliary backup pump and battery on that pump, so that if there's a power outage, they'll also have reserve power to keep the pump running until the power is restored, as well as a backup pump in case the primary pump fails. The backup pump will kick on and continue pumping the water. All right, so we're going to be putting that system inside that existing sump pump pit. So they're actually using the jackhammer right now to loosen the dirt up for the dig here for the pit. They just about got it deep enough here. What is that thing, guys? About 30 inches tall?
Yeah.
This is not a job for the timid.
Not at all. 25,
This is
about 25 and a half.
This is a back-breaking job. Okay, he just measured the pit, so it's 25 inches tall. Now that pit's going in there in the hole. And then what we do is we cut these out, and the 4-inch pipe then goes right through and will stick down in the pit through the hole about 2 inches into the pit. We'll have one coming in on this side of the pit and another one coming in on that side to connect the foundation drain. All right, it doesn't matter how much water they get, it'll find its way into the pit, and the pump then will come on inside that pit and it will pump the water up and out over top of the wall back out into the yard. Because we got a couple pieces of our mirror drain cut over here. And what we did is we cut the mirror drain 16-inch pieces, all right, 16 inches wide, and then we bent it in the middle at 8 inches. So there'll be 8 inches going over the footer and then 8 inches coming up the wall. I'll show you how we're going to put that on here in a couple minutes. All right. So we're progressing pretty good here. We've been on this for about 2.5 hours here. We should have the majority of it ready for concrete by tomorrow. Okay, once you get your trench jacked out, what you got to do is you got to go down and clean off the top of your footer. It's got to be perfectly clean.
Hello, John.
And then we'll be ready to put the mirror drain down on top of the footer. That's why we bent that mirror drain 8 inches by 8 inches. 8 inches will go down over top of the footer, and the other 8 inches will come up the wall. The trench beside the footer is the area where we're going to be putting the 4-inch corrugated pipe. So it all has to be cleaned and leveled out before we put our pipe and mirror drain in. Okay, so we got the mirror drain in, up the wall 8 inches and across the footer. And then we just shoveled a couple scoops of stone back over top of the mirror drain to hold it down. Before we scoop the stone in there, we laid that section of 4-inch corrugated pipe right alongside the footer. All right, the pipe goes right down inside the trench alongside the footer and right down inside the trench here. Pop the lid off that one, sir, so we show them how that comes into the pit there. Yeah, it's a nice snug fit. Okay, so there you can see we've got the 4-inch pipe coming right into the pit. Okay, get a better angle of it there. And that's down inside the trench right alongside the footer, and that's it. Now what'll happen is if they get water even running down the wall, it'll get trapped behind the mirror drain. All right, you see how those ribs in that mirror drain actually keep it away from the wall 1/2 inch, and any water that runs down the wall will run right into these little grooves right here. And even water cascading down a wall can't get out onto the floor. But underneath the floor now, if the water would get underneath the footer, it'll get trapped in the pipe underneath the stone here, and it'll end up in the pit here. And it'll come running out of that 4-inch perforated corrugated pipe, and we're going to put a pump in here with a battery backup system which will pump the water out. So that's a hydrostatic pressure waterproof system. And tomorrow we're probably going to concrete that shut. We won't get to it today, but see all the big pieces of concrete that came out of that trench. Some of them are pretty heavy, and that's why we got the young boys here to pick them up. That one there probably weighs about 100 pounds, and we got quite a few of them. So we'll get this concreted shut here. We're going to buy 80-pound bags of concrete at the Home Depot, mix those up, and cream that trench over the whole way over to the mirror drain, and then install our pump. Okay, we just got done concreting the trench shut. Yeah, you remember that trench we put in here? We put 4 inches of concrete back in to this trench this morning. You can see it's still wet. And we just cemented the whole trench shut, even with the existing concrete floor straight across to the wall, right up to the mirror drain. You see our concrete runs right up to the mirror drain. The mirror drain's still loose. And anything that runs down this wall will go down and will eventually end up in these little treads down there. Okay, you see how the treads keep the Maridrine away from the wall and create little grooves for water to go down in. Any water that would even come down over the wall would still get trapped in the system. This runs right in under, as you recall, and goes right over top of the footer and right into our corrugated pipe that was down in the trench. It's still an open system now, okay? It can breathe. Any water that gets in underneath the concrete in the trench that comes under the footer will get trapped in the pipe, in the 4-inch corrugated pipe, and it'll end up down here in the pit that we put in here. And that's all concreted down on the floor now and ready for a pump, which is the next thing that we're going to be doing. We're going to be putting the sump pump in with the battery backup. As you can see, we have to remove all the excess stone and concrete that we took out. Like I said before, this is not an easy job. This is a very physical job, labor demanding job, but a system like this for one wall is somewhere right around $2,000. So and the materials are somewhere around $700. So that other $1,300 is all labor. So if you do decide to tackle this yourself, you know, you can save yourself a bunch of money.